60,000 people or even more are losing jobs, not having food, but that's not the worst part. More than 60,000 lost their homes. The Great Depression was the worst economic turndown in the history of the industrialized world. 600 apple buyers in New York for a nickel for the homeless.
Well, people bought a lot of things off of credit. Almost everything they bought was off of credit. And during that time, we called it nowadays we call it the Roaring Twenties. And the Roaring Twenties it wasn't a bad thing. It was because people were buying everything off of credit, so people were buying everything that they wanted. And people love buying it.
What was credit back in your day?
Well, credit, it was basically borrowing money from the bank. So let's say if you bought something off of credit, that means that you're just borrowing money from the bank. And a lot of people couldn't pay that money back after they borrowed it, and that's what led to the Great Depression.
Thank you for having me. How did the Dust Bowl affect the land, soil, crops, and things like that?
Well, the Dust Bowl was a giant storm and it came in and it shriveled all the crops, so there was no topsoil for all the plants that were there.
How was it like being a wife in that situation?
It was horrible because he worked half his life on making all those crops and plants and just ended up being shriveled.
How do you think your husband reacted to that?
Well, I know how he reacted because he started crying.
It was hard for the wives who had kids. It was hard to get food and feed themselves. And the children often, they would just have small portions just to have safe food for when eating. Some dads would go hunting, but rarely came back with anything. They would take turns, sometimes going to school hungry, just because they did not have food. In the book, The Great Depression, by Melissa McNeil, one sticky girl was told by her teacher to go home from school and get something to eat. I can't, she said. It's my sister's turn to eat. This shows sacrifices they made to feed the whole family.
Those who inhaled the dust in the Dust Bowl suffered coughing spasms, shortness of breath, asthma, bronchitis, and other sicknesses. Dust Bowl residents exhibited signs of silicosis from breathing in extremely fine silica particles, which had high salinity.
Democratic National Convention in Chicago is where Franklin D. Roosevelt pledged himself to a new deal for American people. On March 12, 1933, just 8 days after becoming president, Franklin D. Roosevelt gave his first speech, which made people want the Great Depression to end. Or it really made the Great Depression end. It was mobilizing the economic or world war. Finally cured the Great Depression. Millions of men and women joined the armed forces, and even larger numbers went to work in well-paid defense jobs. World War II definitely affected the Great Depression.
Two.
People bought things off of credit, and credit, I was about to tell you what credit was.
Why do you keep starting it?
Get your jacket off the floor. Why did you do paragraphs? You shouldn't be thinking of something. It should be, oh. And then all we heard was, and he's editing right now.
Okay, well then we don't have to be quiet.
Yes, you do.
If you're editing, we don't have to be quiet.
The